Most dangerous animals react to you. You get too close, you make a wrong move, you trigger something and they respond. That's not hunting, that's defense. But there are predators on this planet that operate on a completely different logic. Animals that don't wait for a trigger, animals that look at a human being and see prey, not a threat, not something to avoid. Food. And what makes that terrifying isn't just the danger of the encounter. It's the fact that by the time you know the animal is there, the decision has already been made. You're not in a situation that might become dangerous. You're already in the middle of something that started without you. Number 6. The saltwater crocodile. The largest reptile on Earth and the most effective ambush predator in it. Saltwater crocodiles are responsible for hundreds of attacks on humans every year across northern Australia, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific Islands. And what makes them different from every other animal on this list is how deliberately they hunt. They learn the patterns of people who live near water. They identify the places where people cross, where people wash, where people fish. They position themselves accordingly, and they wait with a patience that has no upper limit. A saltwater crocodile can hold position in water for hours with almost nothing visible at the surface. And the attack when it comes is not the kind of thing you can react to. It covers the distance before the threat registers. The bite force exceeds 3,000 pounds per square inch. And the crocodile's response to something struggling in its grip is to roll, which is called a death roll. And it does exactly what the name suggests. These are not animals that attack people because people wandered into the wrong situation. They attack people because people are a prey item they have learned to hunt. Number 5. The polar bear. Every other bear on Earth has a threat response that includes the possibility of retreat. Not the polar bear. The polar bear evolved in an environment where it sits at the absolute top of the food chain and has never had a reason to develop wariness of anything. It doesn't assess whether an encounter is worth pursuing. It doesn't have a threat response built around deciding whether to engage. It approaches. Always. A polar bear that sees a human being is not making a decision about whether to investigate. It's already investigating, and what comes after investigation is not retreat. Researchers who work in polar bear territory carry firearms not as a last resort, but as a standard operating requirement, because the bear's behavior in the presence of humans is not defensive and is not ambiguous. It is predatory. Indigenous communities in the Arctic have understood this for generations. The polar bear is the only bear species that actively hunts humans as a prey item rather than responding to perceived threats. Number 4. The tiger. Most tigers avoid humans. That's the baseline behavior and it's real. But the exceptions to that baseline are what put tigers on this list. Because a tiger that has identified humans as prey is operating with the full capability of the most powerful solitary land predator on Earth. Tigers that become man-eaters, typically after injury or territorial pressure reduces their ability to hunt natural prey, have been documented killing hundreds of people before being stopped. The Champawat tiger in Nepal and India killed over 400 people in the early 20th century. The Sundarbans mangrove delta on the India-Bangladesh border has a documented history of tiger predation on humans that continues today, with fishermen and honey collectors entering the forest wearing masks on the backs of their heads because tigers almost exclusively attack from behind and the false face disrupts the approach. That detail alone tells you everything about what kind of encounter this is. It's not a reactive attack, it's a stalking hunt with a preferred angle. Number 3. The Nile crocodile. Everything that makes the saltwater crocodile dangerous applies here. And then you add the geography. The Nile crocodile doesn't live in remote wilderness that people can choose to avoid. It lives in the rivers and lakes that millions of people in Africa depend on every single day for water, for food, for washing, for crossing from one place to another. The same water sources that entire communities have built their lives around. And the Nile crocodile has built its hunting patterns around those communities. Researchers studying crocodile attack data across sub-Saharan Africa describe a level of situational awareness in attack timing and location that goes well beyond opportunistic ambush. The crocodile attacks at the moments and places of maximum human predictability. The same crossing point, the same time of morning, the same spot where someone crouches to fill a container. It has learned the schedule. And in communities where avoiding the water is not an option, that knowledge the crocodile has accumulated is the most dangerous thing in the river. Number 2. The great white shark. The case for great white sharks hunting humans is more complicated than the others on this list, and that complexity is worth understanding. Most shark researchers argue that the majority of great white attacks on humans are investigatory, that the shark is using its mouth to gather information about an unfamiliar object, not making a feeding decision. And the evidence for that is real. Most attack survivors are bitten once and released. A great white that decided to feed on a human would not leave a survivor. But the minority of attacks that don't fit that pattern, the ones involving repeated strikes and clear predatory behavior, are documented and they are fatal. And the investigatory bite from an animal that can exceed 20 feet and several thousand pounds causes catastrophic damage regardless of intent. The shark doesn't need to decide your food for the encounter to be lethal. It just needs to be curious about something it can't identify at the surface. That curiosity alone has killed people. Number 1. The leopard. The leopard is on this list for reasons that separate it from everything above it. Every other animal here is dangerous in contexts that most people in the world will never encounter. Arctic territory, deep mangrove forests, open ocean, tiger country. The leopard is different because it lives in close proximity to human settlements across the entire African continent and large parts of Asia. It is the most adaptable big cat on Earth. It operates almost entirely at night, and when it hunts humans, it does so with a patience and a precision that has no equivalent in this list. Documented man-eating leopards have operated inside villages, entering homes through windows and gaps in walls, taking people from their sleeping places, moving through populated areas in complete silence for months before being located. The man-eating leopard of Rudraprayag in India killed over 125 people over 8 years and was documented entering villages, navigating around people who were awake, and selecting targets with a level of discrimination that investigators at the time struggled to describe in terms that didn't imply deliberate decision-making. The leopard is the predator that has most successfully integrated the presence of humans into its hunting territory, not as a barrier to work around. As the resource itself, every animal on this list made the same calculation at some point. That humans are not a threat to be avoided, but a prey item to be pursued. And for most of them, that calculation didn't happen randomly. It happened because of geography, or conditioning, or necessity, or simply because nobody in their evolutionary history ever gave them a reason to think differently. That context doesn't make the encounter safer. But it does explain why this happens, and why for people who live near these animals, it's not a statistic. It's a reality they navigate every day. Which one surprised you most? Drop it in the comments. And if you want to know which predators are expanding their territory into areas where people aren't ready for them, that video is next. Subscribe to Wild Warnings.